Podcasts proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Brought to you by KingofAmazon.com. Go to KingofAmazon.com when you do your shopping for Amazon to help the King of Podcasts. Shop for Amazon at KingofAmazon.com.
While I record episode 537 of the Wrestling is Real podcast, I do have on in front of me the riots and the ongoing protests going on throughout the country. It's amazing what you can find on Twitch. So I just got to say this. We are getting the ramifications of social justice, of systemic and institutional racism, all those factors that are going on that are in front of us right now because of the death of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd. It's all coming into our wrestling realm. And because of that, everyone is on high alert and very sensitive right now. A lot of virtue signaling, a lot of social justice, and a lot of calling people out. It's happening a lot. People are very sensitive and very critical right now, justifiably. But I'm going to talk about some of this going on tonight because it's amazing that it gets infiltrated into all of our culture. So we can't just watch wrestling without getting some of these other elements that are going on outside of our realm, and we have to respond to it. I don't want to talk about the protests and the riots. I don't want to do that. If I want to talk about it, I got my YouTube series I talk about there, which I did a couple of episodes. I put them up there. If you want to check it out for yourself, youtube.com/JBRASCO951. So if you want to check it there, you can check it for yourself. And I believe it's also on the website, wrestlingisreal.com, which is where everything is at for the wrestling show. Subscribe. Find all the past episodes. Find our players so you can go and play everything all right then and there. Very easy to go and for you to find. Things like that is all there for you. And more important than anything else, I don't like to bring up gossip. I don't like to bring up all these stories that have to do with anything political on a wrestling show. It shouldn't be necessary, but I know people are going to talk about it. And, it just, everything ties into one another, okay? Let's go and just go through a little quick look at the headlines of what we're going to have to go through tonight. So, diversity concerns, racial injustice, and WWE has to talk about it. Then we have their issues when it comes to the talent that has been let go and how some of them might be coming back and how one of them actually does come back. Then you have issues with one of their stars being reckless in the ring, and what do you do with her in this situation? And the control, the chaos, the corporate bullshit that goes on with WWE on a regular basis. So much going on that we got to talk about, and we're going to go into all of it tonight. Plus, we got the NXT TakeOver in Your House coming up this weekend, and we'll go ahead and do a little preview and prediction for that coming up this Sunday, and we'll leave it on that. Let's go ahead and talk first about a lead sponsor on the program, DDP Yoga. If you haven't checked it out yet, we've heard about it for years. The revolutionary approach to fitness that combines the best of yoga positions, sports rehab therapy, old school calisthenics, and dynamic resistance to give you a complete workout that requires no running, no jumping, and no lifting. DDP, as in Diamond Dallas Page, self high five. He is former 3-time world heavyweight champion in WCW and has made an amazing career for himself, and he has changed many people's lives using this low-impact workout, which you can try out for yourself for 7 days. Go to the link at wrestlingisreal.com. Check out the DDP Yoga link. You can find it right now at wrestlingisreal.com. Click through there, and you will get yourself a 7-day free trial of all the workouts, which is normally a $50 per month rate. You're going to get a chance to try it out for 7 days if you like it. If you don't, you can cancel anytime. 7-day free trial, DDP Yoga, wrestlingisreal.com. Go look for it right now. Click on the link on the banner, and you'll go ahead and learn more about it. And let me know how you work out with it. Okay, moving along. Much like many other companies around the world, major corporate brands, major worldwide global brands decided to consolidate and to come together in a moment of unity. Much like we saw on Instagram, you saw the black squares. You know what that's all about. People wanted to show their solidarity and basically virtue signal for Black Lives Matter and for Black lives being important, which they are. We're not even questioning that. So in my YouTube series, I actually did a couple of videos talking about, it's not about, I personally believe it's not, there is an issue that is systemic and institutional. But I don't refer to it as racism because it's more about class. It's more about status. It's more about the haves versus the have-nots. That's how I explained it. Because when you look at all that's going on here, you know, it is people that have power, that are elite, that have control, that have privilege. There is privilege not by just the color. Okay? That might be a component. But really, it has to do with what the person has to the people that have not. Wrestling fans, for the most part, are quite working class. We watch. It's normally a pretty affordable ticket for us to go ahead and watch wrestling if we go to see it in the arenas, whenever we get the chance to do that again. Same thing for the merchandise. Same thing for watching it on television. You know, it's our escape. And the fact that we have to go ahead, because of the wrestlers that are within the company, yes, they might have their own personal opinions and views and beliefs. Great. Freedom of thought, freedom of opinion, freedom of thinking, freedom of speech. I'm all for it. I'm a First Amendment guy. First and foremost, I want freedom of speech. I want to defend the right for somebody's speech, even if I might disagree with it. I'm all about that. That's okay. And for some people to go ahead and have their outcries, I think it would have been fine if just the wrestlers had a chance to go ahead and just speak on their own. They have individual voices because of the WWE platform, okay, that they can go ahead and stand out. But corporations are now forced to cave in and comply and capitulate. And my question is, does the black community really want that? Do they really care? I mean, I think there are some that do. They like the idea of having that power. It's like they're attaining the power that they want to have that they don't have. And it's that moment to have that power, even if it's just for a short moment, and that control and the autonomy. And the thing is, we know there are opportunists, and they're not black, that are trying to take advantage of the system and take advantage of this agitation, because that's what this is. It's just like something out of a wartime playbook. If another foreign country, if they wanted to go ahead and create problems within a country, create a civil war, an insurrection, if you will, that's this. And the problem is that the black community here they are being, I believe they're being used. I really believe that. And I don't want to live in a society where I feel sorry for anybody. I want everybody to have, I want diversity in all of my entertainment, all of my music, movies, TV, and radio. We have it in wrestling. Great. Because I want all that I watch, all that I consume, I want it to represent real life. Doesn't everybody else? But what I don't want is, I don't want virtue signaling. I do not want to be made that I have to accept something and that we're going to just twist things the way they are and make believe because you need to accept it. Or that there's a new normal. No. There's no new normal. There's a normal. And there are things that change and evolve in time. And we're going along with it. That's fine. And I also don't want to have opinions stifled either. But we're getting that as well. I don't get why. I understand people have political issues. And you know what? You have them all you want. I'm talking about something much higher and much more important. I'm talking about people's well-being. Because wrestling fans are people, man. And the thing is, I know I have fans out there that are definitely, they're hurt by this. They're frustrated by this. Trust me, I know I have a diverse audience that listens to this program. I'm glad you're on here. And I would love to go and hear from you more. If there are things that you want to go ahead and say, I want the platform to be given. I'm not going to give up the entire platform, but I want to go offer the voice. If I have a voice, if I've brought an audience together, let me have other people have their say. Sure. And I have. I mean, that's not an issue. But I think some people feel like the one thing I hear is that the media, which I have the biggest problem with, is gaslighting all this. They are stirring up the pot for all this. And they're creating a sense of impossibilities, right? There's no way to turn this around. There's no way to change this systematic, institutionalized form of class warfare. The haves and the have-nots are what it is. It's like the Hunger Games, right? But it's not. It doesn't have to be that way. And that I do not want people to feel like it's a futile effort. That people in the black community feel like it's a futile effort to turn things around. This been a turnaround, but the media decides to go ahead for whatever their narrative is because it's for money and for advertising. They choose to go a different route. And that's in a nutshell. Let's talk about this from the wrestling perspective now. So WWE, they initiated a statement yesterday on Tuesday as I record about George Floyd and racial injustice. Here's what they said. Quote, WWE supports an inclusive society and condemns racial injustice. We stand beside our black performers, employees, and fans around the world, and encourage everyone to use their voice to speak out against racism. We offer our sincere condolences to the family of George Floyd and the families of countless others who have lost their lives due to senseless violence. Okay. The truth is, what WWE put out is fine. It is appropriate. But there are going to be people out there that expect a lot more from their wrestling and from the brand. AEW put the same kind of message out. Impact Wrestling, the same kind of message out. Fine. Yes. Acknowledge? Good. But virtual signaling? No. Absolutely not. WWE has nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to their diversity because they have diversity on their brand. Now, there might be the class warfare within wrestling that some wrestlers probably feel like, well, they're not getting a chance to get that brass ring, that top spot. But then again, that's Vince McMahon just being a hard ass. And I guess there might be some, I can always have felt like there has been a little bit of racial inequality for a long time. But it's not as if stars haven't been able to make it and make a career for themselves. Remember, there's a difference between, okay, having the money, because a lot of wrestlers are getting paid pretty well now in WWE. And a lot of them there's a lot of black, a lot of women. We have people that are various persuasions. Great. Rock on. And that's fine. Totally fine. My thing is, you have to think about the fact that nobody is being told they can't speak their mind, right? What WWE wants from their stars is complete and total loyalty and, a complete devotion to the brand and to Vince McMahon and to be company players. So it's a corporate culture. It's not a social hold down, I believe. At this point, it comes down to the fact that WWE has a different kind of feel to things. Listen, it's not as if they haven't had champions that were not black. Or, obviously, women have been given much more emphasis in the last 5-6 years, right? Kofi Kingston had a long run as champion. I never questioned the fact that he couldn't have been a champion. If I had any criticism about him, it was because of the amount of time he held the belt, because I felt like they didn't book him well enough to keep him with the belt on. But it's nothing about his career. Same thing with Big E. Same thing with Bobby Lashley. He's going to go and compete for the Universal title. Apollo Crews is United States champion for whatever it's worth. They moved him up. He's getting somewhere. And there's other numerous examples. WWE decided to go and put out a company-wide email. Vince McMahon did. And it included employees and wrestlers. The email stressed the importance of diversity, and it was announced that 24/7 mental health counseling will be made available to anyone who needs it. So that's just the customary kind of like check the boxes. What are the things they need to do to, provide to the wrestlers benefits, things like that. It was also stated in an email address that would be created for anyone who works in the company to address any diversity concerns so they could be brought to the attention of WWE management. The email also included a link to diversity training courses for company employees. Now, what also happens is, in this same story, they talk about Jackson Riker, which, if you might remember in TNA, he was Gunner. He is now the lead member of the Forgotten Sons, who they're trying to get a push on right now within the company, trying to do something with him and that faction. And so, Jackson Riker, he put out a tweet earlier this week that made a point. And let me go and repeat that tweet is. Again, this is whatever you feel about your own politics. I don't give a shit. It's not for me to get into. Okay. At the moment, Jackson Riker's tweets have been limited. So, obviously, a lot of blowback on what he said. And so, basically, the report from WrestlingNews.co is that he offered support for President Donald Trump amid the unrest in the country following the murder of George Floyd. Trump Jr. replied back to his retweeted and replied back to Jackson Riker and mentioned that my father will always stand up for our country and everyone in it. Thank you for your service to the Marines. Because Jackson Riker was a Marine. He served in the Marine Corps. If you knew watching on television on TNA, that was pretty well way made known. Now, in this tweet, the catchphrase that is the Forgotten Sons, Forgotten No More was added in the tweet. Kevin Owens would be the first one to respond. And that said that it was poor timing to use the catchphrase while there are protests and riots going on across America following the murder of George Floyd. The problem here is that now everybody's politics has to be opened up. And let me just say this to you. Politics like religion. Do you want to abandon half of the people that talk to you? Talk politics and religion. Do that. If you want to go ahead and piss off half of your friends, talk about politics and religion. You're just turning your people away. And the idea this is a good idea for somebody who's younger, does it really matter? First of all, learn about what you're talking about before you say something. So again, Kevin Owens decided to go and speak his mind. He says that he pointed out, quote, the freedom you speak of entitles you to speak your mind all you want. I'm not here to argue that. I just really need to tell you that I think you pushing your shitty wrestling catchphrase as all this is happening is absolutely fucking pathetic. Okay, so contention over Forgotten No More. Forgotten No More is referring to the Marines and the officers. That's what he's talking about. Others, wrestlers, same way. Joey Janela replies, someone's going to take a nice shit in your gear bag. Hangman Page sent a video. And then, because we live in age of cancel culture, for whatever reason, again, I'm apolitical, man. I am not talking about this. I am a fence sitter. And I've said on this show, I am politically independent. I do not support one side or the other. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of opinions and a lot of thoughts. If you guys want to come to me and talk about it, hey, go right ahead. I'm always good for debate and discourse. But I don't encourage it, and I don't ask for it. Unless you want to bring it on, I'll talk about it. But otherwise, I'm not bringing it up on the show. But enough was talked about Jackson Riker. Okay, I'll bring it up. So, obviously, more people decided to go ahead and add more to the fire on Jackson Riker. Because he put a Facebook post which uncovered his thoughts on the Black Lives Matter movement. And here it is, quote, Pretty touchy subject, but all this Black Lives Matter garbage baffles me. I challenge anyone of any color or race to go watch 12 Years a Slave, the movie, and realize how good you all actually have it. Learn heritage. Christ, Gandhi, Buddha. They all taught love and caring for others. This is getting out of hand. I pray for this nation daily. First of all, I'm going to say I don't think he's necessarily attacking anybody. He's not putting anybody down. But this offends people. Mustafa Ali responds with, I'm thankful you posted this because now I'm aware of what you stand for. When black brothers and sisters are crying, you praise someone that refuses to acknowledge their hurt. Dave Bautista, who's been very vocal politically, he has been talking now. I just keep naming him nameless because he's a sorry-ass motherfucker who I refuse to let ride my coattails. He gets no love from me. He gets no rub from me. And if he would like to discuss it in person, we would have enough mutual acquaintances that he will be able to find me easily. There's more to that, but I'm going to leave it there. I mean, all I can say about this is, Dave Bautista, man, when he's not able to go and work in Hollywood, all this free time everybody else has, and frustrated over pandemics and this new story. I mean, I get everybody's outrage, man. I really do. So this is going to happen. I'm not going to tell anybody to stop it. I'm not going to say anything about it. It's not for me to say. I'm just talking about it and bringing the point up. But again, if we're going to have this discussion, okay, yes, politics are what they are. They're nasty. They're shitty. It sucks. It's not fun at all. There's nothing nice about it. And that is infiltrated in everything that's going on right now. There's no question about that. But, again, when it comes to what's going on right now with all the protests that are going on as we speak right now, as I am talking on this program, I have up on Twitch a 9-screen from Woke on Twitch watching all the protests and some riots. Okay? That's what I'm seeing. And then both of his Forgotten Sons partners, Jackson Riker, they both said this. Steve Cutler said, quote, although I'm part of a tag team while I wrestle, I am my own person with my own thoughts and beliefs. It pains me to see what's going on in the world. I fought for the freedom of our country and all the people who live here. It shouldn't matter your race or however you identify. We are all human beings, and all deserve to be equal. And then, I will never understand, says Wesley Blake. However, I stand. And that was after he retweeted Tony Dungy, former Indianapolis Colts head coach, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach. And then we have other people that came in. I'm not going to say anything more about that. Again, I made the point. I was going to hold off on saying anything. I have nothing to say about the subject. But it's obvious that everybody's really on another level right now. Everybody is at a high sensitivity right now. This is unfortunate. And it's making wrestling tough to watch when I know all this is going on in the background. My problem is it's all affecting Twitter. I mean, it's affecting wrestling Twitter, but it's also affecting wrestling in general. And I just don't like it. I don't like having to deal with all this, but it's going on, and it's not going away. Not anytime soon. So let's move on to some other stories, something else we can talk about. So a few things let's go to the second story that I would have talked about before all this came about. Nia Jax, Kairi Sane. What another mess. Now, I can imagine a lot of reasons why this would be a tough subject to talk about for some people because regardless of Nia Jax, I mean, in this time, I wouldn't be surprised if we're starting to see things happen where we get discussions as to what should be happening to Nia Jax because she has been reckless with a said wrestler, with Kairi Sane, in a feud that we've been having together for the last few weeks. And over 2 separate matches we've seen on television, Kairi Sane's been getting hurt. And it's unfortunate. Now, here's the story of this. So on Raw this week, we finally saw a match that was taped last week where Kairi Sane suffered a head injury and got her head gashed. when her head hit the steel steps. The match was taped last Tuesday, and the last reaction happened during the spot where Nia Jax shoved her into the steps. Sane was bloody. The match was briefly stopped, and Sane continued the match. And the pause, including the cleaning of the blood by the referee, were not shown on the broadcast. They were edited out. And on Twitter, she put her cut. And it looked not good. Looked pretty bad. With that said, more outrage going on by the wrestlers. Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer discuss the spot on Wrestling Observer Radio. And I will say this. When Brian Alvarez brought it up on Tuesday night, as I record, his idea was what I talked about more than anything else. Seeing what happened to Kairi Sane, there's enough just cause for Nia Jax not to be fired. But she needs to take the Big Show treatment and get demoted back to NXT. Back, not even to NXT, the Performance Center. She has to get demoted. She has to get pulled off of TV. Whatever happened with her injury, like I know she had a little bit of issues with people working with her before and being rough in the ring. Well, it's obvious that whatever happened here, especially coming back from her injury, I don't know if it's just a lot of ring rust or what, but she's got to learn. She's got to get better. I mean, listen, she has all the potential. She's, I mean, they have not utilized Nia Jax very well at all. I mean, hell, we never got the match with her and Becky Lynch that we could have had before Becky got pregnant, right? We never got that feud. And so for me, it's like Nia Jax has been a bust. And it's too bad because this shouldn't be happening to her. She could be so much better at promos, so much better in the ring, and she's not. And I don't know what it is. I think part of it is she's not wrestling like a big wrestler, like a big guy wrestler. Like she should be slow, plodding, maybe not with a whole lot of moves. Power moves, yes, but controlled power moves. And things like that. But again, it's kind of tough. So now, Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer, and Wrestling Observer Radio mentioned that people in WWE were not happy with Jax. And Brian Alvarez read a text message that said someone from WWE told her it's clear that the heat is on for Jax for what happened to Kairi Sane. 1,000% Nia's fault. She needs to be fucking fired. She is dangerous. Fire her before she cripples or kills somebody. This is not the first time that Jax has hurt Kairi Sane. A couple of weeks ago, she attempted a buckle bomb on Kairi Sane on the court of the ring. She missed the mark. Kairi Sane landed awkwardly on the bottom turnbuckle. Yes, she threw her short. The buckle bomb has now since been banned by Vince McMahon. Justifiably so. Nia Jax has to get demoted. This is just not acceptable here. Shouldn't be happening. And it's unfortunate. But here we are once again. It sucks. And I would wish you would get yourself together, but it's just not happening. So with no Becky Lynch, with Nia Jax probably getting demoted, we're hearing now that more NXT talent is going to be called up. So we have some spots open up. Also with the furloughs, if we haven't forgotten. Or those that have been laid off. As we see now, FTR has, or the Revival formerly, they have moved over to AEW. They are there now. Right? We also know that other wrestlers from WWE that were let go, they are now heading to Impact Wrestling, and they will be performing at Slammiversary next month. So we're expecting some more talent to come in. Friday Night SmackDown has already made note that Matt Riddle is moving over. They already did a vignette on him. Matt Riddle is heading to the SmackDown brand. They're already hyping his debut. The other person expected to come up on the Raw brand is Dominik Dijakovic. I mean, they haven't done much with him in NXT. I mean, he's had good matches. He had, really good feud with Keith Lee. Yes. But they haven't really done much than what it is, the Donovan Dijak character from Ring of Honor. not much of a change. Just decide, okay, let's get another big guy in here. Let's see what we can do. So there was a tease on social media that he has a sight set on the United States title. Who's the champion is Apollo Crews. So it's being said that the rules being relaxed about NXT stars being called up. And that essentially there was a standing rule that any star who was going to be called up to the main roster from NXT had to finish out their storylines at NXT before being moved. And the reason for that is due to NXT not coming off as a feeder system to Raw and SmackDown. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reports that plans were made last week to call up additional members to the NXT roster to Raw and SmackDown, and that both men and women would be called up. Another word from Louis Dangor of WrestleTalk.com. He's reporting that Chelsea Green should be expected to be elevated to the main roster, which she's already been on television through different platforms already. So for her to go and make herself up to the main roster should not be much of a change. I mean, she's set for that. We already set up a close of the storyline with her and Robert Stone, so that's moved along there. In terms of the brand, in terms of the company, again, I mean, they did a lot on SmackDown. They did a real hot shot booking this past Friday. The Otis and Mandy thing was kind of cute. I don't know anything. I don't think anyone would know what the Fast Times at Ridgemont High reference is to Phoebe Cates and Judge Reinhold. If you do, then you're old as I am. Other than that, not much else. A 37-year-old reference. A 1983 movie. But I guess it works here. That's fine. Now, the Jeff Hardy thing. I mean, I'm not really much into the whole story that they put together with him playing up his DUIs. But, I mean, listen, if it's a way for Jeff Hardy to get over and to get a spot, I guess. I don't necessarily care for it. Do I necessarily really like it? But they went with it. Okay. It is what it is. I mean, again, hotshot booking. They're trying to go ahead and stir things up on SmackDown and Raw. Try to get something going. SmackDown pulled 2 million viewers. Raw dropped off a little bit this time around. You know, can Matt Riddle make a big difference? Or is anybody else they can bring up that'll make a big difference? I don't know. But it's all on a spot right now. It's just, let's wait around. I just think that we need to get ourselves moving forward to get to crowds. Because all the changes that WWE can make right now will not make the biggest difference until we get crowds back. Until we can get that back. And that they're going to have to figure that out for at least another 3 to 6 months. I don't know what they're going to do until then, but they have to figure something out. Personally, I really wonder, is there any way they could do something where, I mean, if there's going to be some things where they can do things in Florida, it's starting to look more apparent. We're seeing the NBA looking to go and restart their season in Florida at Walt Disney World. Could we see fans coming into the Performance Center or to the NXT Arena and fans starting to come back in some kind of capacity at 50% capacity? Because right now, Phase 2 in the state of Florida is coming up. So could they look at that down the line? Because I guess the real question would be, are they going to get to SummerSlam and worry about trying to go ahead and get something put together there? They're obviously not going to go to LA with this. But the question is, are they going to go through SummerSlam and lose another big gate? Would they try to do something to try to get themselves out to a live crowd? Or is it just still not impossible? It's just not possible. They can't get that foreign crowd to come over. There's just no way to do that. But they have to find a way to get crowds in front. They got to start doing that. Now, the reason I say that is because it's not working on their end. I don't feel like it's working well on having crowds right now. The choreographed crowds, I call it, of the Performance Center stars working their way in. It's not working right now. I don't like it. It's just, it doesn't feel right. So here's what we got for that. So apparently, we're learning about the TV tapings coming up next week, and the NXT wrestlers are dreading the experience. So here's what we're learning. The wrestlers that had the tape last Memorial Day and the day after Memorial Day Tuesday to make the shows sound more exciting has seen their ratings decline with the empty arena shows. Now, here's the thing. They were all made to go ahead and stay standing up for the most part, with occasional chances of sitting down during tapings. So the wrestlers were said to be very tired toward the end of the tapings. And in addition to taping a 3-hour episode of Raw on Monday, May 25th, they also taped SmackDown on the same day and taped another episode of Raw and SmackDown on the following day. They also had to sit through 205 Live and main event tapings and the Intercontinental Championship finals between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. Raj Giri at Wrestling Inc. reports that the crowd wrestlers were somewhat sluggish by Tuesday when it was time to tape 205 Live and main event. Around this time is when someone from WWE got on the in-house PA system and told everyone to be more enthusiastic. One person described it as a patent talking down to a child. And so the match between Bryan and Styles should be more lively since it was taped on Monday. The match was said to be fantastic. And Gary also said the note that the wrestlers used as fans were kept separate from the wrestlers being featured on the shows. They reportedly went so far as to keep the wrestlers away from the main roster stars at catering. The wrestlers being used as fans reportedly had to bring in their own packed lunches and had their own tents outside where they could eat. Wow. The treatment of the Performance Center to the main roster. That's interesting. How about another interesting point when it comes to the class system that is also in WWE as well and how that works out? Because we're also learning that a number of executives and officials were informed over the last 48 hours that their pay would be reduced going forward. Dave Meltzer reported that other personnel have been forced to take pay cuts as well. Most of the referees, if not all of them, have taken a pay cut, as much as 20% of their pay. And most producers took a reduced salary. It's been noted that WWE has cut down on how many producers they've had under contract since April, since the furloughs of several producers when the company decided to release several talent and staff. It's also been reported that the belief that WWE will be bringing back some producers who were furloughed once they start running live events again. But again, it's going to take a while. The talent staff release as well as cutting back on the budget is all due to WWE's plan because of the financial impact on the coronavirus. So there's that to work off of. And then we have more issues with stars and Vince McMahon just not having a good spring and summer. Because the lead writer of SmackDown has been fired. Wrestling Observer reported that Krista Joseph, who you best remember being the main writer at Lucha Underground and doing all that great work that we really enjoyed. Well, Ringside News reported that the budget cuts had nothing to do with his firing. The decision was made due to, quote, highly unprofessional behavior. Meltzer reported, quote, it was a disciplinary thing. I don't know all the details, but I know it was a disciplinary thing. He had just gotten a promotion very recently. Something happened with Vince, and I don't know exactly what it was, but it was let go. He was fired on Friday. Everyone got the word on Friday afternoon. End quote. Now, the Joseph had a lead writer title and worked alongside the other writers, Ed Koskey and under Bruce Pritchard. The Joseph had just returned to the company in December, and right now, he might not be able to go to AEW because of all the issues. But Krista Joseph, if I'm correct, isn't he actually working over at MLW? At least that's what I thought. I read that he moved over there. So I'm not sure what this whole story is about, but I guess he was working on both. I'm not sure. By the way, MLW, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, here we go. So MLW's Court Bauer mentioned that Joseph was working for MLW before he was signed by WWE. So we could just see him going back to MLW. Or if there's somewhere else he's going to be able to be picked up. There you go. I don't like any of this. It's just all no good. It's just, everything's in a tough spot. What can I say? Nice thing that happened on NXT. Drake Maverick has been signed a new WWE contract, and I guess that's for a real deal. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about NXT TakeOver in Your House coming up this Sunday. We'll talk about what's going on with that. One of the other things we can make mention of is that El Hijo de Fantasma beat Drake Maverick to become the the interim NXT Cruiserweight Champion. There you go. But Drake Maverick, even losing, he won because he got the new contract. So we have a couple of events coming up that we got to go and talk about. So we know that we'll have NXT TakeOver in Your House coming up this Sunday. The matches we have so far is we have a women's match, a tag team match, multi-woman tag team match, 6-man tag. Tegan Knox, Shotzi Blackheart, Mia Yim versus Candice LeRae, Raquel Gonzalez, and Dakota Kai. We'll go with the faces on that one. Tegan, Shotzi, and Mia. Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. I'll give Damian Priest the win. Charlotte Flair defends the NXT Women's Championship in a triple threat match versus Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. I think Flair retains. The match I think will be very interesting is Tommaso Ciampa versus Karrion Kross. They built that up pretty significantly. I think Kross takes the win there. It just makes sense. I mean, the one major person you have right now that really is getting a big difference is Karrion Kross. We should see him win. I don't see why you don't. Keith Lee versus Johnny Gargano for the North American Championship. I'll take Keith Lee. Adam Cole versus Velveteen Dream for the NXT Championship. And, yeah, by the way, rest of the Undisputed Era is not competing on this show, which is actually interesting. And I'll take Adam Cole winning the title and retaining. And then the following week, on the 14th of June, we have Backlash. And that'll be from the Performance Center as well. So far, we have 4 matches on the card. Edge versus Randy Orton in a straight-up match. At the moment, Asuka and Nia Jax is still supposed to be happening for the Raw Women's title. I think they would probably have to make a switch at some point. I don't see how they can keep Nia Jax going forward. But they're going to have to figure that out after the next tapings. I don't know what they'll do. Universal title, John Morrison and The Miz versus Braun Strowman in a 2-on-1 handicap match for the Universal title. And Drew McIntyre will defend the... Universal title is Braun Strowman. Yes. Drew McIntyre is WWE champion, and he defends against Bobby Lashley. That's coming up next Sunday. Not this Sunday, but the following Sunday on pay-per-view. There you go. And I was just mentioning before that Summerversary comes up. That's going to be July 18th. And I don't know if they've given an actual location. They have not yet. But it will be July 18th. And by the way, if I'm correct, that is a Saturday that they're doing the Slammiversary show. And then Extreme Rules will run on a Sunday night on July 19th. So we'll wait on everything that's going on with that. We'll leave it all there. So let's go and come back this Sunday. If I don't decide to do it this Sunday, depending on how I decide to go and do things out, I mean, I'll see if I do NXT TakeOver and do a quick little recap on Sunday night, or if I just wait until next week. It just depends on. That's how I feel about it. So I'll let you know about that. Meantime, come back next week for another Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast, brought to you by KingofAmazon.com. For more information on how to subscribe to the show, how to share the Wrestling is Real podcast to listeners like you, and check out the latest wrestling headlines, go to WrestlingIsReal.com. That's WrestlingIsReal.com.